Hi, welcome to Maverick Monday. I'm going to talk about two books today. I've got March, book one by John Lewis, Andrew Aydin, and Nate Powell. And on the other end of the spectrum, Hawkeye, My Life as a Weapon, which is the Hawkeye Volume 1 by Matt Fraction and, I keep forgetting. David Aja and Javier Pulido. So I'll start with March. March was on the Maverick list last year. March, book one, is sort of a memoir of Congressman John Lewis and his life starting out in the civil rights movement. It's told back and forth from President Obama's inauguration the morning of, and John Lewis meets some young kids and he starts telling them how he got involved in the civil rights movement. They go through, oh gosh, I'm not going to do this book any justice. It's really good. So he talks about his childhood on a farm and how he wanted to be a preacher, and he kept chickens on the farm, and he was a little too soft-hearted with the chickens that he hated when they were eaten. And how he, at one point, changed his mind and decided he didn't want to become a preacher, and he went to college, and he got involved in the civil rights movement and learned nonviolent practices and started doing the first sit-ins at lunch counters to help integrate all-white lunch counters. It's really great. It's the first book. I haven't read the second one yet. The illustrations are all by Nate Powell, who is fabulous. And he was also the artist of The Silence of Our Friends, which is by Mark Long, and it's set in Houston in the early 60s. There's not, Houston has a kind of a secret history during the civil rights movement. There was all sorts of really, not under the table. We still had issues with segregation and things, but basically the newspapers and the department stores, a couple department stores, made this special deal, and they quietly integrated lunch counters, and none of the journalists and other newspapers covered it. So they quietly segregated things. There were a lot of times where the civil rights participants in the city, mostly TSU students, were going to march, and then everything was kind of diffused at the last minute, so there weren't a whole bunch of protests and things. There was one big one, and it went kind of south, and a policeman's gun went off, and it ricocheted, and it hit an officer. And there was a big trial and stuff, and it did come out that it was an accident, and there were no students to blame and things like that. But it was a big thing, and I've lived in the Houston area my entire life, and I had no idea until I read this book. So that's great. And that just became a whole review of The Silence of Our Friends, which is also a Maverick book. March was really great. It's a little short. When I finished it, I wanted to keep reading, which is lucky because there is a second book. So that's March by Congressman John Lewis. So my second one, Hawkeye, My Life as a Weapon, which is volume 1. I just got Lisa into all of the Marvel universe. So I started on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. She'd seen the Avengers movie. I got her onto Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and she was like, I gotta. And there is a point in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. where you have to stop unless you've seen it, Captain America Winter Soldier. So I said, no, you have to go back and watch all of them. So she's watched most of them now, and she's pretty much caught up. And Captain America made her like explosions, which it's really sad that she's come as far in her life without liking explosions. I need to show her some other movies. I don't even think that I realized there was a Hawkeye series out, especially not one by Matt Fraction with David Aja illustrating them, until I was hanging out with my good friend Ben Hadke, and we were at a comic book store, and he was like, I have to get the new issue of Hawkeye, and I acted like I knew what he was talking about, because I'm a cool kid like that, and I pretend to know what people are talking about even when I don't. I finally got around to checking it out. Literally, it's from the library. And actually, it took me so long because somebody had it on hold. No, somebody had it checked out and they wouldn't bring it back. We almost had to ILL it. But thank you for bringing it back. Hopefully you paid your fine. And I finally got to read it, and it is a delight. It is wonderful. It's hilarious. I really like the art. Hawkeye is hilarious because he's very dry, and he's human. He's one of the only human Avengers besides Black Widow, and this is his human side of his life, basically, when he's not avenging things with the Avengers. So he gets hurt, and he gets broken, and he does dumb things, and gets his face kicked in, and adopts dogs, and yeah, has friends outside of the Avengers, and by friends I mean his one friend, Kate, who takes up his mantle as Hawkeye sometimes, and she's awesome. There's even a scene when he introduces her, and that page where you meet Kate is probably my favorite thing, because he like drips some coffee, and he goes, "Aw, coffee, no." And then he introduces Kate. Kate took over for me as Hawkeye once upon a time when I was, well, dressing up like a ninja, sort of, is the short version. She is, without a doubt, the finest and most gifted bowman I've ever met, but she's like 9 years old and spoiled rotten. She's pretty great. So yes, it's great. You should read a Hawkeye. I was upset with myself that I hadn't already ordered the other available issues, so I got right on that, and I am waiting for them to come in so that I can read them too. Ugh. Sorry that's so rusty. We need to film more often. In fact, I think we'll film something in a minute, and it'll hopefully be less awkward than this. Alright, so do those nice things you can do on YouTube. Like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, leave a comment if you've read either of the books or you're planning to now, and maybe encourage me, tell me that I'm not as awkward as I feel right now. Okay, bye!